Okay, so welcome to part 2.
Goes. The first part, if you tuned into that, we talked about mine and a little bit about my recovery process. So now we're going to talk about Cynica's experience.
Mine was pretty uneventful. I was not nearly as big as Danielle. I think I carried Sky a lot more in my back, but she obviously also was really small.
You did, though. You carried more towards your back and down in your pelvis than I did. I carried him very high.
Yeah, I didn't. Literally nothing was happening at all. And I was a little bit worried because I had gone into false labor.
34 weeks?
36 weeks. It was like a Friday. I was having the most intense back pain, and essentially I went into preterm labor. But she was still it was too soon. So they stopped it with a shot. They stopped like the contractions and stuff. And my doctor was not great. She was on the polar opposite of the scale as far as goodness goes in a doctor. She was like the most unhelpful person. She was the most awful doctor. They essentially brush everything off because their motto is to not stress the mom out even more. So like if you ask a question, they like literally don't want to answer any of the questions. And I was really scared because she had already started her laboring process. And because I had gone into preterm labor, it was like 2 weeks before I was supposed to be due, and literally nothing was happening. Like I was going in every week like you're supposed to at that point, and I wasn't effacing, I wasn't dilating, she wasn't moving any further down into my pelvis, and literally nothing was going on. Like nothing was happening. I was like, I'm not going to go into labor. My body is not going to do anything. She's just going to sit in there.
Because at this point, I had already gone to the hospital once for a checkup because like I said in my video, I was in labor for 2 weeks. And I stayed dilated at a 1 that whole time. And I was effaced, so.
And continued to efface.
Yeah.
I was not. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be pregnant for like 45 weeks. It's going to be awful. I think I went in with my mom because my husband was not home. And I was so annoyed because they didn't want to answer any of my questions. And some of the questions I had, I kept forgetting. So I literally wrote down a list of questions, went in, started talking to them. During that Q&A, I found out that my pelvis was not properly shaped to give birth. So your pelvis is supposed to be like kind of this shape, and it like moves out, you know, so the baby's head can come through. Mine is shaped like this. You can't exactly fit a round block through a flat hole. So that was why she was not moving any further down into my pelvis like she was supposed to be, because she literally could not fit her head through there. And I went in and I told her flat out, I said, once I hit 40 weeks, I'm done. I'm not going any further past 40 weeks. I'm done. At 40, she comes out. I want to be induced at 40 weeks if she is not coming. And she said, well, you know, that's an option, but we typically will not induce you until you hit 42 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going past 40, so we need to figure out something. And she's like, well, if you want, your other option would be to just do a planned C-section. You're telling me I could have had a planned C-section this whole time? Because I was under the impression that I thought it needed to be an emergency, that was the only time that they would cut a baby out. I did not know that you could go in to have a planned C-section. So they were like, okay, at 39 weeks, we will do a C-section for you. This time it was a lot more, it was a lot more like relaxed for me because I knew she was coming out. I knew what day she was coming. I knew what time she was coming. I had all of the information. I was way more chill about it. I wasn't worrying about, you know, is my body going to do what it needed to do? I was just like, we're good to go. We went in at 8 in the morning. No, that was when my surgery was. We went in, I think, at like 7 or something.
6. You have to go in 2 hours before.
Oh, yeah, 6. We had our photographer come in. Instead of doing birth pictures, she did before C-section pictures. And she took like the last pictures of me pregnant, took pictures of Christian, like once he kind of got into like his little paper scrubs, took pictures of like the heartbeat monitor. The time came, they rolled us back. And when they roll you back, the first thing they do is like they do the spinal. And they give you an option.
They rolled you back into the surgery?
No, I guess, did I walk?
I had to walk.
Did I walk? Yeah, I think I walked. So we get in there. And the first thing like they do is the spinal. Your husband can't be in there.
No.
When they do or your partner, I should say. She can't be in there. So Christian couldn't be like in the room. And I was really scared actually to get the spinal because like I've had other oral surgeries where I've had to be completely knocked out and they like pulled a bunch of my teeth and stuff, but nothing like bodily. I knew an epidural needle was really, really big and I was terrified. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to stick this thing in my spine. What if they miss? You know, you have a lot of worries, especially when you're pregnant. So, like, I could be paralyzed for the rest of my life. Like, if they hit the wrong place and,
Which, actually, I asked my guy about that, and he said that you have to royally screw up for that to happen. Like,
well, it's the way my life goes.
I know. But he did tell me... you know, he looked at me dead in the eyes. He went, "You have to screw up so bad."
My lady was not as descriptive. She felt down my back. She had me like arch my back and stuff. So you have to like show them
Which
your
is
spine.
very hard, by the way,
when you're really pregnant. Yeah. So and you're sitting down of all things. Like if I could have just like bent over, it would have been so much easier. Like while standing up, but no.
They can't do that because you're gonna go numb.
Yeah. And they like put your feet up on this thing. So you're like, your feet are like at a 90-degree angle. You're sitting on this bench, well, the operating table, and you have to like hunch over your belly. And actually, the spinal tap needle is super tiny.
I didn't see it.
Really, really little.
I was just described to me. I didn't see it.
Yeah. She showed me. She's like, it's so tiny. And I was like, okay. So she did the spinal, and immediately I felt nothing. I did feel a little zing of pain go down my left leg though.
I didn't feel anything.
And she was like, did you feel something? And I was like, yeah, it went all the way down to my foot. And she goes, okay. And I don't know what she did, but after that I didn't feel shit. And I was like, this is sort of weird. Because you don't right at first, your brain doesn't register. You don't like, your body doesn't go, oh, you're numb now. It's not like your foot falls asleep and your brain goes, your foot's asleep, you need to move. It's just like you're sitting there and all of a sudden you don't feel anything, but you really didn't feel anything before. And then they move you and you realize because you like, when you lay down, you kind of you kind of pick your feet up when you're not numb. And then you like, they're like, okay, lay down on your sides. You're like, okay. And you start to lay down and then you realize your feet are not following. They didn't strap me in though. My anesthesiologist was
it's not like a hard strap. No, but she did. She was like a loose piece of fabric.
Yeah, and she gave me the option.
Oh.
She was like, she goes, I'm gonna have to put these on you if you move.
Maybe he knew mine was gonna be rough.
Yeah, I don't know. She's like, if you promise to keep your arms out to the side so you look like Jesus.
Yeah, you do, like on the cross.
Legit. So you're just like, literally can't feel shit from like the bottom half of your boobs down. Christian came in kind of like right as they started.
Yep.
And doctors like talk to each other and stuff. And so I just heard making first incision and like I was like waiting, you know, my brain to like feel it. And then nothing happened. It was the most bizarre realization, I guess, because you're anticipating to feel something like a tug or anything or pressure and literally nothing. So Christian's sitting there, minutes are ticking by, all of a sudden we hear somebody go, well, actually, back up a little, kind of similar to Danielle's situation, but I had 2 doctors also. They did not have to push on the top of me, but when they went to get her out, they did something like this. And so I just felt the whole bed. And I only felt it because I could feel, like, up here. So the whole bed went like this while they were, like, pulling her out of me.
Yeah, and it feels like you're, like, fall off the table.
Yeah. Your body is acting as though it's paralyzed. So it was super bizarre. So then somebody goes, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. And then we hear her cry. And then I started crying. And then Christian started crying. And then my doctor goes, okay, sneak peek, ready, 1, 2, 3, look. And, like, put her up Simba style. Not even kidding. She's sleeping, but legit, just like this, over the top of the screen that they have up. And all I see is this bloody, red, screaming little alien thing, little teeny thing. Like, and she's got a set of lungs on her. She came out boss in the world from, like, second one. And that she was just like, 1, 2, 3, look. And we both look up to just this still blood dripping off of her. One difference between mine and Danielle's, though, Christian did not get to cut the umbilical cord because, blessing in disguise, Skylar's umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck so badly that they had to cut it off of her. But she came out screaming, so it wasn't like suffocating her or anything, but had we done a vaginal delivery, it would have. They finished sewing me up. My procedure didn't take nearly as long. They're just like, okay, so we just need you to kind of roll this way. And it's like the bed, and when you roll, you're like right here. And so they like have you hold on. There's like this metal thing. They like have you hold on, and you like roll. And you're like holding on to it, but it's so scary because you're like teetering on like the edge of this bed. And then they're like, okay, go. And then they like, as you roll, they lift and set you into your recovery bed, which is also the bed that you're going to be in for the next few days. I was also back there for 2 hours. They didn't use ice on me, but they just kept asking me, can you wiggle your toes? And I was like, yeah. So I'd like try so hard. Just your brain is trying so hard to send the nerve signal, wiggle my toes. And it's like, okay. And it like goes down your body, but then it's just like, no, thank you. I actually couldn't wiggle my toes first. I was actually able to move the top half of my leg.
Same.
To like, you can't see it, but like I was able to like bend my leg this way. And then that was when they decided to move me into recovery. But I was almost back there long enough to meet the other C-section of that morning. I don't know if you had this though, but once I got into the room, I threw up.
I didn't have any nausea. They had me eat like crackers and stuff. I didn't have any nausea.
Oh, I did.
But I was so fucking nauseous for my pregnancy. Yeah. I might have just been determined not to be.
Yeah, so I got in there. They do warn you when you move that you could get some motion sickness and whatever, and that, you know, okay. And I was like, whatever, I've never really had motion sickness before, so okay. And I just kind of brushed off the warning, and I got into the room, and the nurse was like, okay, is there anything? And I like, you need? And I looked at her, and I was like, I'm gonna throw up. And she was like, okay. And so she got me this bag, and I just like immediately threw up. And I think within like the first 25 minutes of me being like in the room, I threw up 3 times. We were given like extra strength ibuprofen and Tylenol. And then at like 3 a.m., the nurse came in to check on me, because they do that. They check on you like throughout the night and stuff. And I had to pee or whatever. So I was up and moving. Probably the worst part, like the first day, was getting back into bed. Like getting out of bed didn't hurt nearly as bad because you can kind of lift with your legs, so you don't have as much pressure. Like on the incision area. So like when you lift with your legs, there's no like bending that needs to happen to like get up. But when you sit down, you obviously have to like bend to sit. And that was excruciating for a whole day. And then the next day I was walking around like it was no big thing. That's really it about mine. Pretty uneventful, I guess.
Part 1 is up if you guys want to go watch that. Bless you.
Sorry.
But other than that, thanks for joining us on our journey of momming.